Okay, so I'm working with a clean copy of the data, and notice it's Boulder County Assessor Data Selection 1. You can rename it whatever you want, but make sure you're working with a copy just in case you mess something up. So I'm going to show you some tips and tricks about VLOOKUP and also how to handle large amounts of data when you're copying and pasting. If we tried to copy and paste everything from the Building Characteristics tab into here, we would run out of memory, we'd corrupt the file, and we'd probably lose it. As some of you have already tried. So, before I even do that, I'm going to add an index number to this data set. I usually do this when I'm working with data and I don't have all the information about the original source, just in case I always want to go back and check a particular record. Did I corrupt something? Did I lose data? Did I, type over something mistakenly or whatever? There's always a way to audit and trace back if you introduce an ID column. So I'm going to open up column A, right? I'm going to call it ID. And now I've got to fill in this column. You've probably seen the autofill if you do a 1 and a 2, and you can grab them. And if you wait till the cursor is a plus sign in the lower right, you pull down and you can autofill. The problem with that is there are 637,000 some odd numbers, and I don't want to wait the 20 minutes that it would literally take to drag the cursor down. So let's delete those and let's do a different kind of autofill. First of all, let's see exactly how many rows there are. The last row is 637,086, so there's 637,085. That's how many rows we need. So if we go here and we're in the Home tab, we come over here to the autofill command, and we want to use a series. We want to put it in a column. The step value is going to be 1, and we said it was 637. Now I've forgotten, but let's do 57. That's not right, but it's close, right? So if we just click OK, it does take a little while, but we don't have to wait around for it. So I'll pause for this to fill in. Actually, I had to redo that, and I overshot by a few, but that's actually not too bad, right? So my last row is actually 637,086. I went to 637,100. I can just delete a few rows there, right? And now I have an ID number. I'll always be able to trace that back to the original when I'm working with future files. And one other thing that I tend to do a lot of when I'm doing this kind of work, let's go back up to the top and let's save. This is sort of an intermediate step. I'll pause here if it takes a while to save. Okay, I'm going to do a few more things with this file before I do the VLOOKUP. Remember, we're probably not going to use all of the rows. We looked up sales CD, and it turns out we only want the qualified sales or the Qs. So let's do a couple of things. First of all, we don't need the deed number. It's not something we can analyze statistically. It's not likely to be something where we could tell from the deed number certain characteristics, at least not for this project. So we're going to be efficient. The reason I'm going to delete some columns is when we do the copy and paste, the smaller and leaner the file is, the better. I'm going to get rid of deed type as well. And status CD, if you look in the data dictionary from the website, you'll realize why I'm deleting that. Just going to be more efficient. Now, so we have the file. Let's do this. Let's sort this data, and that's going to take a few minutes probably. We'll go to the data though. We'll sort. The data has headers, and we're going to sort by sales CD, and we're going to then just actually, before we do that, I just realized something. Before we sort it, let's just create a new field that says qualified. We want to turn that field that's 3 different letters into a 1-0 variable. So we label it qualified. We'll do an if statement. We'll do equals if this is equal to Q, which is qualified. Put that in quotes. So if cell D2 is qualified, we'll make that a 1, the value if it's true. Otherwise, we'll make it a 0. We see that actually it evaluates to 1 there, and it evaluates to 0 when it's a P. There's also one other code. Now the trick is we have to paste this into the other rows. If we start in the first one, we do Control C to copy it, and then we want to name a range. Sorry, 1 second, I need to pause. Okay, sorry about that. So we're going to hit Control C, we're going to copy this, and we're going to go to the name box over here where it says F2. That's where we are right now. Let's put in the range we want to copy it to. We're going to go from F3, put a colon in there, to F, I believe it's 637,087. Right? We're going to select that range and then hit Control V. That's actually a pretty quick copy. We can verify. You can see where the 1s and 0s are, and where it's a 1, it's a Q. There's a P, there's a U, and those are both 0s. So that's actually correct. Let's verify that we've copied it all the way down. We actually copied one too many rows. Let's delete that. And now let's do one other thing. So let's go back up to the top. So we're making this spreadsheet bigger because we've got a formula in there. Once we've got the 1s and 0s, we don't need the formula anymore. So let's select the entire range. We'll hit the Shift key, select with the Control down, and we'll, instead of using Control C here, sorry, we want to go over to the Home menu. We want to just hit the copy icon, and then leaving the same range selected, we're going to go to Paste, and we're going to put the values in with the same number formatting. And now notice that we no longer have the formulas in these cells, we just have 1s and 0s. That's good for two reasons. Number one, it will take less memory, and number two, we can now eliminate the sales CD column. All right, so we're going to delete that. We're slimming down the data. We have the strap, which we're going to need for the join. We have the transaction date, which we're going to need probably to sort by the date of the transaction, and maybe we'll analyze a subset of observations from, the recent 10 years and maybe the 10 years prior, those sorts of things. We've got price, and we've got whether it's a qualified sale. Now, because remember, we're not going to use the unqualified sale, so now let's sort the data. Go to Data. We'll sort it. We'll sort it by qualified, and we'll sort it largest to smallest so that the ones show up at the top. All right, and that doesn't take very long. We don't have to pause. We actually kind of have to just inspect where we're going to be. And so I'm just going to scroll down and see how many do we have. Actually, let's just go to a number. Let's go to the middle of the database instead of A3230. We have 600,000 plus records, so let's do 330,000. We're into the zeros, so that's too far, so let's do 230,000 rows and see if we're still in the zeros. Notice that this means that more than half of the sales are not qualified. So we're really slimming down the data. It's more than 230,000 rows. Let's make it 280,000 rows. This way we're trying to search efficiently. We're already in the zeros, so let's go back to 260,000 rows. We'll just hunt around until we find something. We're still in the zeros. Let's go to the 240,000 rows. So it's between 240 and 260. I'm just going to use the scroll bar now and see where do the ones stop. Okay, they stop right around. Okay, so the last qualified sale is row 243,045. So we have 243,044 qualified sales. We're going to actually now delete the column. We're going to delete the rows, right? So we're going to start here, and we're going to just delete. And this is going to, it's probably going to take a while. We can use Control down. We're going to delete all these rows. All right, so once we've selected them, I use the Control down arrow key there. I'm going to right click in the rows, I'm going to delete. And now I've actually got a much slimmer file. I'm going to save it one more time. I'm going to come back up to the top, and I'll pause here and I'll save. Okay, so we have a much smaller database. Now let's talk about, and I'm going to show you how you do the VLOOKUP, which will allow you to join information from the Building Characteristics tab into the Sales Transactions tab. So let's take a quick look at Building Characteristics. Let's pull in something we know will work, like square footage. And let's just see what column is area in. Main floor square footage. What we really want is probably total finished square footage is column AA. That's handy because we know that it's column 27, and that's going to help us. So remember, we're going to use the strap number. So let's go here and let's set up the VLOOKUP function, and this is going to be finished. I'm going to call it, let's just call it area in square feet. Okay, so the function is equals VLOOKUP, and we're using the key. Notice there are a number of arguments we have to give this function. We have to give it the lookup value, which is going to be strap from this table. We're going to give it the table array, which is going to be the table in Building Characteristics. We're going to give it the column index number, which is going to be, I believe, 27. It's going to be 27 columns over in the table we're looking in. And then the range lookup, we'll go through each one of these as I look at. So if I look up, lookup value, if you click on that, it'll actually, if you click on the VLOOKUP, you can get help. So if you want more information than we got here, you can always just check the help. But I'm going to go here, I'm going to do the lookup value, which is going to be, in this case, cell B2. Right? And then after that, the table array is the tricky one. I need the table array to go from Building Characteristics A1 down to the bottom, and then I need to copy the entire, I need to use the entire table range. So it's A1 to AP166377. Yes, it's a big table, right? And I also want to make sure these are absolute addresses. I'm going to use the dollar signs before both the column and the row, because if I ever copy this, I don't want to shift the table that I'm looking at. The range I'm looking in is still going to go from A1 to AP166377. So that's our table array. And then the column index number, we said is column AA. We're going to double check, but I think that's going to be column 27. And then the question is, do we want an exact match or an approximate match? We can leave it blank. I think it tends to work better if we put in true. I don't think it'll be a problem here. Let's enter that. And so let's check now. We got 1680. If we go over to Building Characteristics, the first rows happen to match, right? It's strap M2 with 6 zeros, I guess, or 5 zeros, and then a 1. We come over here, that is, oops, sorry, go back over to the left here. The very first row happens to be the same, right? M2, blah, 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 1. If we go over to column A1, we can just verify, or AA, sorry. It's 1680, followed by 1216, and so forth. So you're already familiar with copy and paste. We're going to need to do a lot of pasting here, but if we paste the first few, right, what do we have? We have 1680, 1680. Looks like we're getting some doubles here. I'm not sure that's actually right. I don't think it is, so we got to figure out, oh, we have duplicate, we resorted the records, so we have duplicate records. Sorry, if we come over here to Sales Transactions, the first two rows actually are the same property. We got to think about that. Oh, so we have two different sales, right? You can explore the data this way. One sale in 1999, the property sold for $66,000. In 2017, it sold for $95,000. Still the same area, different sales transactions. So we have to take account of that. So we know that the VLOOKUP function is working. We could, if we wanted to, put in some more columns here. But I'm just going to finish out the column, and this will allow you to join in one column at a time anytime you need it into this table which is what you're going to need for the raw data, so you'll be set to do a lot of